Travis Wayne Goodsell. Opening hymn by Dire Straits, Money for Nothing. Closing hymn, David Bowie, Dance Magic Dance. After today's meeting, the prophets had ordered the release of President Eyring, because he's the counselor, his reboot of How I Hear Him. It's like they can't hear him the first time, so they keep trying to create new ways to hear him. That's the whole point. I keep doing video after video pointing out the real church history, exposing their crimes and their fraud. Mormons are not Christian. The Christian God, Jesus, is a fraud in and of itself, from Constantine's Nicene Council. They created him, and they made him a real boy. Zoop! A real baby. Never did exist. Because the Gospels are latter-day revelation, just like John's revelation. It's just told in story form, like certain chapters in John's revelation. And so the Mormon God is not Jesus. And yet the church, the prophets, over and over and over, which is a psychological brainwashing tactic, convince Mormons that Jesus is real, just like Constantine did. And so nobody's hearing you. Nobody's hearing the prophets. It's a fraud. It's a con. It's a scam. And it's a dangerous and deadly one. Because his reboot is hearing him, since he doesn't exist, it's now through others. And specifically, others' counsel and advice. All women, whether you're Mormon or ex-Mormon, know that Nelson changed the law of obedience. So who do you obey now, women? God, right? But God's not real. So who do you obey? The counsel and advice of the prophets, who speak for God, who doesn't exist. And what do they want you to do? What do they tell you to do? Obey your husband. You're still slaves to your husband. I've already exposed this. Law of chastity was changed to prepare for polygamy. It's a crime. Polygamy is like adultery. It's a crime. But Brigham Young had to blame Joseph so that he could justify doing it himself. Joseph was blamed for everything that was criminal and was considered foolish and crazy and mad for everything that was coded. You know, like the first vision wasn't Jesus. It's code. And I've gone over with you how in the sealing ceremony, the wording directly makes the woman the slave to her husband. That's why the law of obedience was the way it was. Because Brigham Young wrote it that way. Do you see how the prophets are scamming you, frauding you, deceiving you? And you reject me, who's trying to warn you and free you from your bondage. You have to pay, remember? It's called a protection racket. It's not a donation. It's not a membership fee. It's a crime. The whole organization is a fraud, a criminal fraud, that all of you have been brainwashed to believe it's legitimate, and that Jesus Christ is real. I witnessed how my parents followed the church. They each had different ideas on how to raise a family. My dad was originally Democrat. My mom converted him to the dark side of conservatism. My mom is a white supremacist. When I called her out for her racist comment one day, she says, "Well, my parents are worse." That was her justification for being a racist. But there was an issue on what to do, probably to me, I was the oldest, and I would not have my agency taken from me. But they would never fight or argue in front of us as kids. They would take it to the bedroom. We could still hear. And I remember staring up at the bedroom doors, listening, as my other siblings were all gathered around also to listen. My dad pulled the temple card. You have to obey me. And my mom, the white supremacist, shut herself up, and Dad got his way. The liberal, deep state Dem Dad turned to the dark side. That's how it worked in Mormon families. That's oppression. That is bondage. That is sex slavery. Women are not equal in the church. And I told you, read from Joseph Smith, 17th of March, 1842. He gave women the priesthood and priesthood office. so that they can be independent and equal. And yet the church, to this day, you've got Irene deceiving you now, because the God you continually pray to in vain will never answer you. And when someone never answers you, you create idol worship. Oh, I see his image in a tree. It's a sign. Oh, that person said something that was on my mind. It's a sign. Astrologers use this tactic. They tell you exactly what you want to hear as they're able to read you. It's a con. Astrotheology is also a con. All religions are a con. Karl Marx loved religion because they're a con. You can control the masses and turn it into an opioid. What will it take for Mormons to quit being evil and attacking me, who's trying to free you and save you? I don't want you to hear me and go, that's what I was thinking, it's a sign. I want you to be independent thinkers. That doesn't mean you are free to commit crime. That means you've got to be sound. You've got to use science. Remember, the scriptures, even the Bible, tells us to use the vegetation theory for learning truth and exposing fraud. By their fruits ye shall know them. And once you know them, you can judge them as to whether they're good or bad. What the prophets are doing is eliminating the fruit, keeping you stuck in the faith of superstition. Others' voices, because God won't communicate with you. That's what the prophets are teaching through Irene, through others' counsel and advice. Because there is no God who will communicate with you. Because he's not real. The church is dangerous and deadly. You already know this. Because Nelson heard him for coronavirus rather than hearing the word of God from the Exodus, where Moses likewise experienced a viral outbreak in Egypt. His counsel was nothing like Nelson's counsel. Nelson said the power of Jesus will cure you of coronavirus. Pure fasts. because the first one didn't work. And then the healing power of gratitude. And see, they helped cause the spread and escalation. Your life is no longer normal. And they have no intention of protecting you and saving you. They want your life to continually be a danger. This is an extortion threat, if you didn't know. You get compromised. I warned you all about it last year when the Governor, Herbert, said, we're opening up early. Make your decision. Stay home with your kids, lose your job, or get back to work and abandon your kids. And then we had school. And the kids were sent to the slaughter. And everyone is blaming me for warning you and telling you to stay home and stay safe, because that's the true word of God for a viral pandemic. Are you going to continue to allow the false prophets to deceive you? Or are you going to turn to the true word of God? The answer is already evident by your fruits. You're going to die listening to the false prophets.